The archive opens with routine entries recorded before midnight. Meteorological sheets note broken cloud layers over the western approaches, visibility fluctuating, moon intermittently obscured. Air defense logs list alert status unchanged, searchlight batteries on standby, acoustic posts reporting distant engine noise without bearing confirmation. Fighter regiments are marked as dispersed across forward fields, aircraft fueled for short-range interception, ammunition loads entered by hand. Maintenance notes indicate repeated strain on landing gear assemblies of I-16 fighters due to uneven runways, no corrective action possible before morning. Civil defense summaries register blackout compliance across Moscow districts, tram lines halted, industrial shifts reduced. At 23:10, radar plots from early warning stations show weak, intermittent returns at altitude, consistent with single or paired bombers approaching on a northerly vector. The entries do not distinguish targets. Telephone logs record brief confirmations between command posts, acknowledgements without commentary. At 23:28, an order is issued to scramble available night-capable fighters. The time is underlined twice in pencil. No additional notation explains why. The archive preserves the moment as an administrative transition, when routine surveillance, mechanical limitations, and standing procedures aligned without deviation, while aircraft engines were already warming in darkness beyond the perimeter lights. Aircraft readiness sheets continue to accumulate entries in parallel columns. Fuel loads are listed as partial, adjusted to expected interception windows not exceeding 40 minutes. Ammunition counts are checked against previous sorties, with remarks noting mixed belts due to supply variance. Armorer initials appear repeatedly beside the same aircraft numbers, indicating reuse without full resupply. Weather addenda appended to the main log revise cloud base estimates upward by several hundred meters, marked as provisional. No correction follows. Ground crews record engine temperatures rising unevenly during idle runs, recommending delayed throttle increases after takeoff. These notes remain uncrossed, neither approved nor rejected. The fighter regiment's duty roster shows a reduced night complement. Several pilots are marked unavailable due to earlier daylight sorties, fatigue noted in shorthand. Others are listed as conditionally fit, a designation used throughout the summer months without further specification. Lieutenant Victor Talalikin is entered among the active night alert pilots, assigned to an I-16 airframe previously flown twice within the same 24-hour period. The aircraft log notes a replacement of the oxygen hose connector earlier that evening, tested under ground conditions only. The entry ends with a single word, serviceable. Communications protocols are restated in annex form. Radio silence is emphasized during climb-out unless contact is established. Identification procedures rely on silhouette recognition and engine sound profiles, given limited availability of onboard instruments suitable for night engagement. Searchlight coordination tables list pre-assigned sectors, with overlapping coverage zones intended to compensate for intermittent failures. Reports from earlier nights note frequent delays in target illumination, attributed to cloud interference and misalignment of acoustic bearings. These observations are included without amendments. Air Defense Command summaries outline the expected enemy approach patterns based on previous nights. Bombers are assessed as flying singly or in small groups, exploiting darkness and scattered cloud cover. Altitude estimates vary widely, reflecting inconsistent detection. The documents emphasize interception before bomb release zones, defined broadly as any airspace within the outer defensive ring. No prioritization of specific districts is indicated. The objective is recorded simply as prevention of bomb delivery. The I-16 technical manual excerpts attached to the operational packet describe the aircraft's limitations under night conditions. Instrument lighting is minimal, glare noted as a persistent issue. The cockpit canopy is prone to reflection, reducing forward visibility. The manual advises reliance on peripheral cues and engine sound changes during approach. Armament effectiveness is rated as reduced against multi-engine bombers, requiring close range. The text includes a caution regarding ammunition expenditure discipline. This section is underlined in blue pencil in several copies. Maintenance logs from the forward airfield record surface conditions. Recent rainfall has left uneven patches, though drainage is improving. Wheel ruts from repeated takeoffs are measured and marked with stakes. No resurfacing is scheduled. The night duty officer signs off on runway status as acceptable, adding a marginal note advising increased spacing between departures. There is no indication this note is disseminated beyond the log. Civil aviation advisories are suspended for the night, all non-military flights grounded. Meteorological balloons launched earlier have provided incomplete data due to signal loss. Forecasts remain extrapolated. The archive preserves these uncertainties in tabular form, with blank cells where values could not be confirmed. No narrative accompanies the tables. Enemy aircraft identification sheets circulated among pilots include silhouettes of Heinkel He-111 bombers viewed from multiple angles. The silhouettes are reproduced from pre-war intelligence sources, updated with notes on observed camouflage variations. The sheets emphasize recognition of the twin-engine configuration and glazed nose. There is no mention of defensive armament beyond standard positions. Marginal annotations by pilots indicate discrepancies between drawings and recent encounters, but these are not incorporated into official revisions. Alert status is escalated incrementally. At 23:35, readiness moves from standby to immediate. This change is marked by a stamped notation rather than handwriting, suggesting pre-prepared forms. The sound of engine starting is not recorded, but fuel consumption logs begin to show deductions corresponding to warm-up cycles. Ground crew shift changes are logged at midnight, overlapping with active alert status, resulting in dual signatures on several entries. Lighting restrictions around the airfield are reinforced. Perimeter lamps are dimmed further, and taxi guidance relies on handheld signals. A separate log records a brief delay in signal lamp availability due to battery replacement. The delay is measured in minutes and deemed negligible. No further comment is made. Air raid siren logs from Moscow proper show no activation at this stage. Civil defense units remain at readiness without deployment. Hospital preparedness reports indicate surgical teams on call, beds cleared, but no admissions related to air activity. These reports are filed automatically, reflecting a standard cycle repeated nightly. Radio intercept summaries attached to the archive note increased enemy chatter earlier in the evening, fading as aircraft cross the front line. Direction-finding attempts yield broad sectors rather than precise tracks. Analysts annotate the sheets with question marks beside several bearings. No synthesis is provided. The documents coexist without consolidation. The personal flight record of Lieutenant Talalikin, appended later for reference, shows prior night flying experience limited to training exercises. His last combat sortie is listed as daylight patrol days earlier. The record includes a medical clearance dated the same morning, confirming fitness. There are no remarks regarding fatigue or stress. The form ends with the pilot's signature. Standard operating procedures for night interception are reiterated in a circular distributed that week. The circular emphasizes engagement from the rear quarter when possible, avoidance of prolonged pursuit, and return to base upon ammunition depletion. Emergency procedures include bailout instructions, specifying minimum altitude recommendations. The circular bears multiple stamps indicating receipt by various units. Whether it was read in full is not documented. As midnight approaches, the archive shows a convergence of routine documentation. Timetables, checklists, and standing orders overlap in time. The enemy presence remains abstract, represented by intermittent radar marks and acoustic reports. No single document conveys urgency. Instead, the accumulation of standardized entries reflects a system operating within expected parameters. Searchlight unit readiness reports list bulb inventories and generator status. Several generators are noted as running at reduced capacity due to maintenance constraints. Operators log test sweeps across assigned sectors, noting cloud interference. The tests conclude with the assessment operational within limits. No corrective measures are proposed. Anti-aircraft artillery logs record gun crews at stations, ammunition loaded but safeties engaged. Fire control instruments are calibrated based on earlier data. The logs include reminders to await visual confirmation before firing to avoid friendly aircraft incidents. These reminders are underlined, reflecting recent near-miss reports. The Airfield Command Post log records routine telephone traffic. Calls are logged by time and origin, with content summarized in single words: confirmed, negative, standby. One entry notes a dropped connection, re-established within seconds. There is no indication of confusion or alarm. Fuel storage reports confirm adequate reserves for multiple sorties. A note mentions contamination concerns in one tank, isolated from use. The rest are cleared. Refueling crews are placed on extended duty, with rest rotations postponed. This postponement is recorded as temporary. Meteorological updates continue to arrive sporadically. A brief clearing is noted west of the city, followed by renewed cloud cover. Wind speed at altitude is estimated from ground readings. These estimates are flagged as uncertain. No alternative data sources are available. The archive includes a training memorandum reminding pilots of the psychological effects of night flying, advising controlled breathing and instrument crosschecks. The memorandum is generic, distributed widely. There is no evidence of individualized briefing that night. By 0:05, the readiness posture remains unchanged. Fighters are positioned at dispersal points, engines cooled after warm-up, crews waiting nearby. The logs capture this waiting state through repetitive time stamps without new entries. The enemy aircraft, if present, remain beyond direct observation. Acoustic post reports increase in frequency, noting engine sounds at varying altitudes. Bearings are inconsistent. Operators attribute discrepancies to atmospheric conditions. These explanations are entered parenthetically. No corrective recalibration is attempted. The archive preserves an order reminding units to conserve searchlight usage to prevent overheating. This order references previous equipment failures. Compliance is acknowledged by unit signatures. The effect on coverage is not assessed. Medical unit logs record routine checks of parachute packs and survival equipment. One pack is replaced due to damaged stitching. The replacement is logged against aircraft number corresponding to Talalakin's I-16. The timing is noted at 23:50. No comment follows. The standard night flying checklist for the I-16 is reproduced in the appendix. Items include canopy closure, instrument light adjustment, fuel selector position. Each item is marked as completed in aggregate, without individual signatures. The checklist is dated but not timed. Enemy order of battle estimates are attached as background material. They list bomber units known to operate in the sector. The estimates are weeks old. Updates are pending. The attachment remains unchanged. As the first hour of the night concludes, the documents show continuity rather than escalation. The defensive system is active, functioning within its established constraints. Aircraft, crews, and equipment are aligned according to procedure. The absence of narrative commentary leaves the reader with a layered record of readiness, uncertainty, and routine, preserved without synthesis or projection. At 0:12, the first confirmed visual contact is logged indirectly through searchlight coordination sheets. A beam sweep registers a transient reflection at altitude, bearing northwest, duration less than 3 seconds. The operator annotates a possible cloud edge. No engagement follows. 2 minutes later, an acoustic post revises its report, noting engine rhythm consistent with twin-engine aircraft, estimated altitude above 4,000 meters. The bearing overlaps partially with the earlier light reflection. The overlap is circled by the duty officer but left without comment. At 0:16, Air Defense Command issues a brief instruction to scramble one additional interceptor from the forward field. The instruction is recorded as executed. Engine start times are entered for two I-16 aircraft, including the one assigned to Lieutenant Talalakin. The log records ambient temperature at ground level, oil pressure rising within acceptable range, magneto check completed. The aircraft taxi sequence is staggered by 3 minutes to maintain spacing on the uneven runway. At 0:19, Talalakin's aircraft is marked airborne. The takeoff run is noted as extended, attributed to surface conditions. No anomalies are recorded. Climb rate is estimated visually by ground observers, who mark normal. Radio silence is maintained. The second interceptor follows at 0:22 but is assigned a divergent vector based on separate bearings. Radar plots at 0:24 show a clearer return, single contact, altitude steady. The plotting sheet includes a pencil line projecting the track toward the outer defensive ring. The projection crosses multiple searchlight sectors. A notification is sent to those units, logged as acknowledged. No time stamps accompany the acknowledgements. Talalakin's climb is reconstructed from fuel consumption rates and standard performance tables. At 0:27, he is estimated to be passing 3,000 meters. Instrument lighting adjustments are inferred from checklist compliance. No direct record exists. Ground observers lose sight of the aircraft against cloud layers. At 0:29, a searchlight beam acquires a solid silhouette briefly, revealing twin engines and elongated fuselage. The operator records, confirmed bomber. The beam slips off as cloud intervenes. Anti-aircraft artillery units are notified but instructed to hold fire pending sustained illumination. Gun logs record safeties remaining engaged. The bomber's course is adjusted slightly, as inferred from subsequent radar plots. The change is minor, recorded as within normal evasive variance. The altitude remains consistent. The bomber is assessed as approaching from the northwest corridor previously used in earlier nights. At 0:32, Talalakin's radio log shows the first transmission of the sortie, a brief acknowledgement of vector correction issued by ground control. The content is summarized as received. No further communication is recorded immediately. His heading is adjusted accordingly, aligning with the bomber's projected path. Engine performance notes reconstructed later indicate steady RPM, no misfires. The oxygen system replacement earlier in the evening is presumed functional. There is no recorded complaint. The climb continues, with the aircraft nearing the bomber's altitude. At 0:35, the searchlight network achieves sustained illumination for approximately 7 seconds. Multiple beams converge, briefly outlining the bomber's wings and glazed nose. The silhouette matches the identification sheets. The bomber's defensive fire is not recorded visually at this stage. Anti-aircraft units prepare but do not fire. Talalakin's approach is reconstructed through timing correlations. Based on interception geometry, he is assessed to be closing from below and behind, slightly offset. This aligns with standard procedure. No deviation is noted in the logs. At 0:37, the first firing event is recorded. Ammunition expenditure logs later show a partial belt expended from Talalakin's aircraft. The exact duration of fire is not specified. Ground observers note faint muzzle flashes in the distance, intermittent. The bomber's course remains steady during the initial engagement. The bomber's onboard records, recovered later, note an attack from a single fighter, approaching from the rear. The time is logged in local German notation, corresponding approximately to 0:37 Moscow time. The record indicates evasive maneuvers initiated, minor altitude adjustment downward. Defensive gunners report firing bursts, ammunition usage recorded without confirmed hits. At 0:39, searchlight illumination is lost again. Radar continues to track the bomber, now showing slight oscillation in altitude. Anti-aircraft units stand down momentarily. Talalekin's position is inferred to be close, as subsequent firing is recorded. Ammunition logs indicate continued expenditure. The total rounds carried are known from load sheets. By 0:41, the logs show depletion approaching 0. The firing pattern suggests controlled bursts rather than continuous fire. There is no indication of jamming or mechanical failure. The bomber's German report notes damage to the port engine cowling, oil pressure fluctuation, but engine remains operational. The crew assesses the aircraft as still capable of completing the mission. Bomb release remains scheduled upon reaching target coordinates. At 0:42, Talalekin's radio log records a brief transmission, content summarized later as out of ammunition. The transmission is weak but acknowledged by ground control. No instruction is recorded in response. The standard operating circular would have advised disengagement and return to base. Instead, subsequent events are reconstructed from converging records. Radar shows the fighter's return track not diverging immediately. Searchlight operators report a fleeting second illumination, showing two aircraft in close proximity, separation minimal. The note includes a question mark. At 0:44, a sudden loss of radar return occurs for the bomber. The plot line ends abruptly. Simultaneously, acoustic posts report a sharp change in engine noise, followed by silence in that sector. The logs mark contact lost. No immediate explanation is provided. Searchlight units sweep the area intensively. One unit reports a descending object reflecting light intermittently, rotating. The report is time-stamped 0:45. Anti-aircraft units are instructed to hold fire due to uncertain identification. At 0:46, a separate radar return appears at lower altitude, consistent with a descending object. The return fades quickly. Ground observers report distant flashes near the horizon, low altitude. The nature of the flashes is not specified. The bomber's German records end abruptly at the moment of collision. Post-war reconstruction indicates catastrophic structural failure. The collision point is estimated based on debris distribution and witness reports. No precise coordinates are recorded contemporaneously. Talalekin's aircraft status is inferred from parachute deployment reports. At 0:47, a searchlight unit reports sighting a parachute descending slowly, single canopy. The report is relayed to command. No friendly aircraft are expected to bail out in that sector except the Interceptor. Medical and rescue units are notified. The location is estimated based on wind drift calculations. Ground units begin movement, logged as initiated. At 0:49, civil defense logs note distant explosions outside the city perimeter. No bomb impacts are recorded within Moscow districts. The siren remains inactive. The absence of bomb release is inferred from lack of damage reports. Talalekin's descent is tracked intermittently by searchlights. The parachute is reported drifting toward a wooded area near the outskirts. The time to ground contact is estimated at several minutes. No injuries are reported at this stage. At 0:53, ground units report locating wreckage of an aircraft consistent with a bomber. Fires are observed. Ammunition cook-off is noted. The area is secured. No survivors are found among the bomber crew. These findings are recorded later, but the initial notification time is logged. At 0:55, Talalekin is reported located alive by a local patrol. He is conscious, with injuries described briefly in medical shorthand. He is transported to a medical facility. The transport time is recorded. No interview is conducted at this stage. Air Defense Command logs mark the interception as successful. The term used is procedural, target neutralized. No embellishment follows. The interceptor sortie is closed administratively. Remaining interceptors are instructed to return to base. The second I-16 lands without incident at 1:05. Its ammunition remains unused. The pilot's debrief notes no contact. Fuel and maintenance logs resume routine entries. Talalekin's aircraft is listed as destroyed. The loss is categorized as combat-related. A preliminary cause is entered as collision. The night continues with additional radar contacts that do not result in engagement. Civil defense logs remain unchanged. Hospitals receive no air raid casualties. Talalekin's medical report, appended later, records injuries consistent with bailout at altitude. The parachute functioned as designed. The report is clinical, without commentary. By 1:30, the air defense posture returns to standby. Searchlight units stand down partially. Anti-aircraft guns secure ammunition. The logs reflect a return to routine status. The chronological record of the event remains distributed across multiple documents, each capturing a fragment. The sequence is preserved through timestamps, signatures, and standardized phrasing, allowing reconstruction without narrative interpolation. German archival material related to the sortie is fragmented and uneven in preservation. The primary source is a Luftwaffe bomber unit war diary covering August 1941, recovered partially damaged, with several pages reconstructed from carbon copies. The entry corresponding to the night in question lists a scheduled single-aircraft mission originating from a forward base west of Smolensk. The aircraft is identified by type Heinkel He-111, serial number partially obscured, crew complement 5. The mission objective is recorded in standardized phrasing as night bombing of urban industrial targets within the Moscow area. The exact target designation is coded, consistent with Luftwaffe practice at the time. Pre-flight documentation includes fuel load calculations, bomb load confirmation, and weather briefing notes. The weather briefing describes broken cloud cover over the route, expected to provide concealment during approach. Visibility over the target is assessed as variable. No extraordinary risks are noted. The aircraft's maintenance status is marked as serviceable. An annotation indicates a routine inspection of control surfaces completed earlier that day. Crew assignment sheets list the pilot, navigator, radio operator, and 2 gunners. Individual names are present but are redacted in some copies. Training records attached to personnel files indicate prior experience with night missions over the Eastern Front. The pilot's logbook shows multiple sorties conducted in July and early August, with no recorded combat losses. The navigator's notes include hand-drawn route sketches, annotated with expected radio beacons and estimated times over checkpoints. The takeoff time is logged according to German local time, corresponding to late evening. The aircraft departs without incident. Engine performance entries during climb are normal. Radio traffic between the aircraft and ground control is minimal, reflecting radio silence protocols. The route proceeds eastward, crossing the front line without interception. The war diary notes no flak encountered during the initial phase. As the aircraft approaches the outer defensive zones of Moscow, the German records become more detailed. The navigator's log records intermittent searchlight activity observed below, described as scattered and uncoordinated. Altitude adjustments are made to remain above the majority of beams. The bomber maintains course and speed. No evasive maneuvers are recorded at this stage. At a time corresponding approximately to 0:35 Moscow time, the navigator notes increased searchlight concentration ahead. The entry describes multiple beams converging briefly. The pilot responds by adjusting heading slightly to the south. The adjustment is recorded in degrees, consistent with standard notation. The aircraft remains on course toward the coded target area. The first indication of enemy fighter presence appears in the gunner's combat report section. A rear gunner notes sighting a single-engine aircraft approaching from below and behind, visible intermittently against cloud gaps. The identification is tentative, recorded as likely fighter. The report notes no immediate firing, suggesting the fighter is still maneuvering into position. Moments later, the rear gunner records opening fire. Ammunition expenditure is logged in approximate counts. The firing is described as short bursts. The gunner reports no confirmed hits. The pilot's remarks section notes vibration and sound consistent with nearby gunfire but no immediate damage indications. The navigator logs a brief deviation from planned track due to evasive maneuvering. The bomber descends slightly, losing a small amount of altitude. Engine parameters remain within acceptable ranges. The mission is assessed as still viable. Bomb arming switches remain off pending approach to release point. Subsequent entries indicate that the fighter attack persists. The gunner reports continued presence of the attacker, now closer. Another burst is fired. The gunner notes difficulty maintaining visual contact due to darkness and glare from searchlights. No communication with ground control is attempted. A critical entry appears noting damage to the port engine area. The navigator records fluctuating oil pressure readings. The pilot assesses the situation and decides to continue, reducing power slightly on the affected engine. The decision is recorded without commentary. The estimated time to target is recalculated. At this point, the German records show a gap of several minutes. The war diary entry resumes abruptly with a final notation indicating collision with enemy aircraft. The wording is concise, without elaboration. The time is logged. No further operational details are recorded. The entry is marked with a diagonal line indicating mission termination. Additional context is provided by post-mission loss reports compiled later. These reports categorize the aircraft as lost due to enemy action. The cause is specified as ramming by a Soviet fighter. The location is estimated based on last known position and debris recovery reports. The loss is marked as total, with crew killed. German air defense intelligence summaries compiled in the days following mention the incident briefly. The summary notes an increase in Soviet night fighter activity and mentions a deliberate collision tactic employed by an enemy pilot. The tone is factual. No analysis of effectiveness is included. Interrogation reports of German prisoners from unrelated units reference rumors circulating within bomber crews about Soviet pilots resorting to ramming when out of ammunition. These references are anecdotal, recorded as hearsay. No operational changes are documented immediately following the incident. Technical assessment documents compiled by Luftwaffe engineers examine wreckage recovered later. The assessment notes structural damage consistent with high-speed collision. The analysis focuses on wing and fuselage fragmentation patterns. The report does not speculate on pilot intent. It lists contributing factors such as limited visibility and close-range engagement. German training circulars issued later in 1941 include updated cautions regarding close pursuit by enemy fighters. These circulars advise maintaining greater separation after defensive fire. The circulars do not reference specific incidents but are dated after the loss in question. Correlation is possible but not explicit. Bombing mission statistics for the period show no bomb release recorded for the aircraft on that night. The absence is noted in aggregate summaries rather than individual logs. The planned tonnage for the mission is listed as unexpended due to loss of aircraft. The German records also include a brief notification sent to the families of the crew. The notification uses standardized language, indicating death in combat during an air operation. No circumstances are detailed. The date and location are given broadly. Captured German documents reviewed post-war by Soviet analysts include the bomber unit's loss table. The table lists the aircraft with a code indicating ramming. Soviet annotations appear in the margins, translating key terms. These annotations do not alter the original content. Comparative analysis between Soviet and German timestamps reveals minor discrepancies, attributed to time zone differences and clock synchronization issues. These discrepancies are noted in analytical notes appended later. No attempt is made to reconcile them fully. German meteorological records for the night corroborate cloud cover and variable visibility. Wind data aligns with drift calculations used later by Soviet rescue units. These records are preserved separately and cross-referenced only in post-war compilations. The enemy perspective preserved in these documents presents the event as a brief interruption within a larger operational pattern. The loss is one among many recorded that month. The documentation emphasizes procedure, loss categorization, and subsequent administrative actions. No German document from the period includes a narrative account beyond the terse entries in logs and reports. The reconstruction relies on aligning fragments across multiple sources, war diaries, crew logs, technical assessments, and later summaries. Each document contributes discrete data points without interpretive overlay. The cumulative record from the opposing side remains consistent in key elements: the presence of a single attacking fighter, sustained engagement, damage prior to collision, and abrupt termination of the mission. The documents end where the aircraft's operational existence ends, leaving the remainder to be inferred through parallel records rather than explicit testimony. In the days following the night action, documentation resumes its regular cadence. Air defense logs close the incident with administrative precision. The interception is assigned a reference number. Cross-references are added to radar plots, searchlight reports, and fighter sortie records. The entries are dated and signed. No additional narrative is appended. Medical facility admission records list Lieutenant Victor Talalikin under emergency intake during the early hours of August 7. The admitting diagnosis notes fractures and contusions consistent with parachute descent. Vital signs are recorded at intervals. Treatment procedures follow standard protocols. The patient is transferred from emergency intake to a ward within the same day. Follow-up notes indicate stabilization. There is no extended commentary. Parachute equipment logs confirm recovery of the canopy used in the descent. The fabric shows stress consistent with deployment at altitude. Harness components are inspected and logged. The equipment is removed from service. The log entry is brief. Crash site reports compiled by local authorities document wreckage fields outside the city perimeter. Coordinates are approximate. The bomber's remains are described in technical terms: fuselage sections, wing fragments, engine components. Fires are extinguished. Unexploded ordnance is not present. The area is secured and later cleared. Salvage operations recover identifiable parts. Serial numbers are partially legible. These are forwarded to intelligence units. Civil defense summaries for the night remain unchanged. No bomb damage is recorded within residential districts. Infrastructure status reports list no new incidents. Public transport resumes according to schedule the following morning. Factories reopen on reduced shifts consistent with wartime conditions. Blackout enforcement continues. Airfield maintenance logs register the loss of one I-16 aircraft. The airframe number is struck from active inventory. Replacement scheduling is noted but not immediate. Spare parts inventories are adjusted accordingly. Ground crews submit routine loss acknowledgement forms. Pilot debrief documentation is compiled once Talalikin's condition permits. The debrief form is standardized. Entries include time airborne, approximate altitude, ammunition expenditure, and outcome. The form includes a section for remarks, which is filled sparsely. The handwriting is steady. The document is filed with unit records. Command-level summaries aggregate the event into weekly reports. The interception is listed among other engagements. The phrasing is consistent across reports. Numbers are tallied. No elaboration appears. Distribution stamps indicate circulation to higher headquarters. Press and public information materials are generated separately and do not enter operational archives. Within the archival record, the event remains categorized under routine defensive action resulting in enemy aircraft destruction and friendly aircraft loss with pilot survival. Personnel files for Talalikin are updated. Decorations and commendations are processed through administrative channels. The paperwork includes citations and approval signatures. These documents are filed alongside service records. The language is formal. Dates and ranks are precise. Training memoranda circulated later reference the incident indirectly. Notes emphasize ammunition management and engagement procedures. The memoranda do not cite names. They are issued as general guidance. Receipt acknowledgments are collected. Searchlight unit performance reports include brief references to successful illumination during the engagement. Operators note equipment strain but no failures. Maintenance schedules are adjusted. Generator servicing is prioritized. These notes are routine. Anti-aircraft artillery logs show no rounds fired during the incident. The logs include confirmation of compliance with hold-fire orders. The entries are signed off by battery commanders. Meteorological archives preserve the night's data without annotation. Cloud cover, wind speeds, and temperature readings remain as recorded. These sheets are filed with others from the period. German loss notifications received through intelligence channels are catalogued. Translation notes accompany the originals. The materials are stored in enemy equipment and operations files. Cross-references link them to Soviet reports. The connections are administrative. Post-war archival compilations later bring together these disparate documents. The compilations include indexes and finding aids. The event is referenced by date, location, and involved units. No narrative synthesis is imposed. Researchers access the materials through catalog numbers. Over time, routine wear marks the documents. Pencil lines fade. Ink remains. Paper edges yellow. Some pages carry stamps from multiple decades. The content remains unchanged. Annual summaries of air defense activity list totals for aircraft intercepted and lost. The figures include the night of August 7 among many others. The summaries present numbers only. Maintenance manuals are revised in later years. Marginal notes from earlier copies are not carried forward. The operational context shifts, but the original documents remain preserved. Hospital discharge records show Talalakin released after recovery. The record notes fitness for duty at a later date. The form is closed. The crash site is revisited only for administrative closure. Land use records update the area status. No permanent markers are recorded in operational files. As months pass, new incidents populate the logs. Pages turn. The night of early August 1941 becomes one entry among many. Its presence persists through timestamps, signatures, and standardized phrasing. In the archive, the sequence ends without flourish. Documents rest in folders, ordered by date and unit. The system continues to record subsequent nights in the same manner, maintaining continuity through routine documentation as the war proceeds.